You've got some fresh mail out of Adelaide.
Yeah, I do, Eddie. What I can tell you tonight is that Ken Hinkley will walk away from Port Adelaide if and when he believes the club is out of contention. Now, Port and Ken are perfectly aligned on this. They're very pragmatic about his future. Port aren't going to walk in and sack Ken Hinkley halfway through the year. They're going to let Ken make the call if and when it does get to that stage. And if it does, they'll do it with dignity and they'll do it the right way. Now, we're not there yet, but it could be a matter of weeks away.
So what's changed? Why has it changed? Performance? Is it performance-based? Is that it? Or he's had enough? Or the situation? Or the pressure from the media?
No, I think the reality of the situation has dawned on Ken and people close to him that Port might not contend and might not win a flag this year. So while there's still mathematically a chance, he'll keep coaching. But until that happens, we could see a change.
Not the first time this has happened. Bob Rose did it for Lee Matthews at Collingwood. Just looking at the ladder, though, so Port Adelaide are 15th. They have 2 games and massive whack of percentage out. So they're basically 3 games outside at the moment. How long's when?
Well, it's more concerning how players are finishing the game. Their second halves of footy have been deplorable at the moment. And Hirdy, I don't know, is this, if the club is aligned with Ken and Ken's aligned too, is this shackles off for the players and they can, like, a sigh of relief and can get back to playing some really quality on top of the ground sort of footy?
I'm not sure why you wouldn't be playing your best footy anyway. I think if you want to be playing your best footy, there might be a bump. There might be a bump if Ken goes and Carr's in there. But what I would worry about is for Carr whether that's the right time for it to happen. I mean, at the moment he's got cover. He's got cover while Ken's there. The performance he can go while he's gone. If they have bad performances, what the supporters want is they want instantaneous success, which they might not come.
So Ken will do what's right for the club. So if he believes that it's another 4 to 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it is, he'll stay. But I'm now firmly of the belief that he's made up his mind that as soon as it's not right, he'll walk away. He's not going to push on for the sake of it.
They've got the bye this week, and then they played GWS in Western Sydney.
Yeah. So is a mistake what happened at the start of the year? Should they have just gone with Josh Carr, or it's actually worked out okay?
My personal opinion is I've got no issue with Port Adelaide going for the succession plan and having a crack with Ken, but as soon as it's mathematically done, they need to cut ties and allow Josh Carr to take over. So I don't have an issue with what they've done.
So you think he should be allowed to take over from bang, straight away, Josh Carr?
Well, there's actually a precedent in Leon Cameron. He left the Giants after round 7 or round 8, allowed the Giants to reset and go again the next year.
Mark McVeigh wasn't coaching straight away. I mean, they went and got a new coach.
But it still allows the club to breathe and go again.
Well, what they've got to do is treat him with respect because he's been so good for that footy club for 12 years. Yep, and that's the most important thing.
How strong's that mail?
Strong.
Right.
Yeah.
OK, let's move on. Big night of the tribunal. Alex Pearce has...
He's been cleared. He'll play the next. He'll play the next game. 3 weeks.
Can we say 3 cheers for football?
Common sense is common again. Finally, that is a huge win.
So Fremantle argued that this wasn't careless, that he didn't breach his duty of care, and the AFL Tribunal agreed tonight, so he's free to play this weekend. And Fremantle were hopeful and expected this would be the case. My understanding of the situation is that it would have acted like a precedent had this been upheld. In the end, the MRO gave him 3 weeks and the tribunal said, no, that's not worth 3 weeks, he can play.
Guys, we mentioned this last year when Peter Wright got rubbed out for 4 weeks at Essendon about the player coming with the ball. Can we just roll the Barras? I've got Peter Wright. Well, let's have a look at Peter Wright first. So this is what happened last year. So he's running basically the same situation. He gets 4 weeks. And it's changed.
It's a bit different.
I got him in the head.
Turned a bit early.
Turned a bit early.
So I think one of the key difference is Peter Wright braced.
Yeah.
Whereas Alex Pearce just ran into the contest and almost exposed himself. So
but by doing that, you're exposing yourself to getting cleaned up yourself. But rule number 1 in life, you must protect yourself first. If I protect myself and you protect yourself going for the ball, we're protecting each other.
Yeah.
That's my worry at the moment, as people are getting left wide open. Can we roll the Tom Barras vision? So this is another situation where Tom Barras, in the old days, would have been flayed for looking like he pulled out of a contest there. He realised that all he was going to do was give away a front-on free kick, maybe get reported, and covered himself up so he didn't get hurt. Now, it's amazing that has now become the right thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's certainly a change in the way players look at football because you don't want to hurt someone else, you don't want to hurt yourself, you don't want to get suspended. But I think the days of the Nick Rewott mark flying back with the flight of the ball are almost dead and gone.
Well, and there's a way to teach this too. Like, Barras can actually go up there with the right technique, and I know you're big on this too. There's the
hook mark.
Yeah, the hook mark. We call it a hook mark where you can come in from the side and in the shape of a hook and you jump up with that knee right up there to actually protect yourself, Ed, because that's your first rule. Players need to practice that more so than ever and not just running blindly to a contest.
Fundamentals are still the most important thing when you're teaching players how to play football. A lot of players, when they go for the ball and do get caught out, aren't perfecting their fundamentals. Not the one there, but the fundamentals. If you don't do it properly, you'll hurt someone or hurt yourself and get reported.
Okay, but is there there's no shame now in players going front and square as opposed to
it depends who's
doing
watching.
what you used to do.
It depends which era is watching.
It's got your head smashed in.
Yeah, probably not the smartest moment of my career, but that was what you're taught to do. You could not, if you were going back to the flight of the ball in my day, or in our day, and you pulled out, you won every TV show.
Yeah, Lee Matthews
and
always...
you'd be out for good.
Well, that's what happened, though. And, of course, Robert Walls was the one who really went hard on players, and Lonergan ends up losing a kidney a week later after he got stuck in a Geelong player for pulling out of a contest, allegedly. But you have a look at it. Lee Matthews talks about he used to be able to judge it, that if he wasn't quite going to get there, he'd get under the pack.
Front square, he'd put a couple of short steps in and away you go. I don't mean a bad way short step, but he'd judge it.
And mind you, he did massacre a few along the journey.
He was pretty brave, Lee Matthews.
Darcy Byrne-Jones is one of the most courageous players that Port has, and he just opened himself up, and he'd be regretting that move.
Should we have, though, that just as you enter a roundabout intersection, there is a rule. You've got to give way to the right. In that situation, should it be the onus on the player running with the flight of the ball as opposed to the player coming at the ball who has to give way?
But how do you know? If you're ultimately running with the flight of the ball, with your eyes on the ball, you don't know what's coming into you. I think it's much harder to know when you're running with the flight of the ball than if you're running against the flight of the ball and you can see what's in front of you.
So in that situation, we are content that both players had eyes for the ball and they had a collision that is part of the game of football in wet conditions where the ball drops a bit shorter, and at the end of the day there was no malice involved, and in fact the buzzwords of the day, duty of care, was taken into account by both players. Clear to play. You happy with that?
Well, I think why we're so happy with that is it goes to show that the AFL is just not stamping out the result. You're actually allowed to have a collision, and it's not what the result that happens. You can keep collisions in the game as long as they're fair collisions.
Hold, because I know you're ready to go on this one. Right, we're going to show the situation that happened with Liam Baker, who didn't get rubbed out.
He got serious misconduct. He got misconduct fine for this, not serious misconduct for that on James Peatling, Rory. What are your thoughts on that incident and the fact that he didn't miss a week for that?
Yeah, well, Liam's a tough, hard player, and clearly his frustrations and emotions have boiled over here. But, I mean, James Peatling's not even looking. He's defenceless. That's in the back of his neck where you can cause some serious damage. That had to be weeks. That is something we just don't want to see in the game.
So, Rory, if I did that to you on the street, what would happen?
There'd be a lot of ramifications. You'd be in deep trouble.
Yeah. No, but the thing is...
I'd be like a uncaged
I think what we're saying is that at a football instance, the people are really... They're rubbed out. They just shouldn't be rubbed out. We understand why, because of concussion. But that sort of incident, that should be rubbed out. That is not what you want.
So how many weeks, though?
It's at least a week.
Don't worry, just rub them out.
It's at least a week. You can't have that. A fine is not enough. That's a non-football incident that should be rubbed out.
To put it more simply, that's a choice to make. Baker makes a choice to put his elbow in the back of someone's neck and head, whereas the Pearce one, that's an accident.
Do you think John Newcombe is up? He got a $10,000 fine because it's racked up a few. Do you reckon once you get to 10,000, that's a week?
Yeah, I reckon there's some... Yeah, once your fines add up, it's a week.
And I thought Newcombe's one where he grabbed the player and lifted him and pile-drived him is as much... I reckon that's as dangerous as it actually gets.
Well, the duty of care in tackling now has changed. I mean, players, and we're going to go through it a bit later in the show with the coach's corner, but the duty of care when players tackle, you can see players have changed the way and they're looking after their players.
So we'll do that later on. You're going to tell us how you now train... What, there's 4 different ways to tackle?
I think there's 4 different ways to tackle. There's 4 different ways to tackle to prevent, whether there's open play, whether it's from behind, whether it's from the side, to prevent being rubbed out.
Fascinating stuff. Let's get to that. All right. Presidents meeting last night.
Today, President's meeting today, yes. There was a Zoom call today with all 18 AFL club presidents, chaired by Andrew Bassett, who's been in the news this week, of course, regarding the St Kilda versus Gold Coast stoush that reared its head on the weekend. These are the main talking points. Who's the next chair? No commissioner wants the role the presidents believe. There is a view from Andrew Pridham at Sydney that the next 2 commissioners, one should be female and one should be male. The committee that will select the next chair as well has been decided. It includes Andrew Pridham, it includes Andrew Bassett, includes Sonia Hood and a couple of others as well. The media rights deal, which is lucrative, and what the future holds in that respect. The soft cap lift. Now, the presidents believe that the AFL will lift the soft cap between $700,000 and $1 million. Remains to be seen whether the clubs will all be supportive of that, but that's what they believe the AFL will do. Pass plays is the big one. This is a welfare one. There was a view among the presidents today that each club should employ, under the soft cap or otherwise, a player or a past player to look after players who used to play for the club.
Like
designated role.
Gavin Krasicki.
Yeah, but not every single club has one in order to increase the welfare for players who no longer are playing AFL.
That shouldn't mean the soft cap, because that's not for the current players, that's for the past players.
No, that's right. No, you're right.
I love the last one on keep it confidential.
Yeah.
So how does that come up?
Well, they were told to keep it confidential,
right,
and I'm sure it's going to be in the papers tomorrow. And
But I'll give you the tip in footy. Once 3 people know you've got a leak, right? If I only tell you, I know that you've leaked or I've leaked. If I tell him as well, then you know it was him, and that's what happens.
So who told you, Tom?
Can't tell you.
All right.
But all right,
question, though.
now on the talk about the commission, right now, this is getting murky now because people are actively lobbying behind the scenes to become the next chair of the AFL.
So what's happening? Because Richard Goyder, there's a lot of pressure on him to move on, and it feels like he's not going to move on. Why is that?
No, he wants to stay on. He wants to stay on for 3 years.
Yeah, so why is that? Why is he staying on?
Well, he believes he's the right person at the moment to be there, and you just saw there that none of the commissioners want to take the jump. So I reckon it's time to maybe move on a few commissioners who have been there too long. If they don't have any aspirations to move on, if they've got a key position, fair enough. But there's some good people. So Jeff Brown is being mentioned in dispatches. Now I've spoken to Jeff, and at the moment he doesn't really want to do it himself. At various times I think Jeff has thought about it, but he's going through his myeloma. He's going really well at the moment, but he has dedicated himself to find a cure for myeloma. He's also going away later in the year, but he's a guy who could walk straight in and be the chair. The one who is starting to come into big calculations is John Wiley. From outside football, former head of the Sports Commission. He was the guy who actually was the head of the MCG trustees when they built the new Northern Stand. One of the biggest issues that we have to get is the right person for the jobs that are coming up. So we need somebody who understands how the AFL does and participates in the building of the MCG. You need somebody who knows their way around business. He's a guy who was born in Queensland and became an AFL follower. And, of course, he's one of Australia's most successful businessmen. So there's two that walk straight in. Pridham's the other one, Andrew Pridham. Now, he's got the knocks on him because he's well known for thinking that St Kilda and North Melbourne should be gone. OK, so there's a long way back from there, but you can come back from that situation.
But what you're saying is they need to change it.
Well, they need
no,
to change
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're going to. But at the same time, what I think they need to do is I think they need to put Peter Gordon onto that commission because the concussion situation is massive. His acumen and leadership during the War Council, during COVID, was exemplary. So was Andrew Pridham's and so a few other people involved in it. So there's good people around the place, but what the AFL's got to do is not just paint the commission by numbers. They have to get serious people in because Peter V'landys is giving us a hiding at the moment and we need to fight back. And you know what the problem is? We're not doing that badly, but we're not selling the message at all.
That's what I was going to say. The AFL's doing extremely well, but
really
Peter V'landys is getting all the publicity and looks like V'landys is walking all over the AFL, particularly in other states. It's not actually the case, but the commission, in my opinion, need to have more voice and need to be out there telling people what they're doing.
But Hirdy, you have a look on the weekend. Caroline Wilson wrote a story. Now, I can tell you exactly where that came, but I won't do it now, right? But Michael Warner did a story.
No one's saying anything.
No, well, I'm telling you. OK, but what I'm saying is that people in the media are being briefed and they're writing opinion pieces, large opinion pieces, which then become the talk on the radio, then become the talk on television shows, and people are lining up Richard Goyder at the moment. And there was another big expose in The Australian where Peter Jess came out about the concussion situation. So it's happening everywhere at the moment. And
we'll keep talking about it all year, Ed. It's going to be a discussion all year.
But a decision has to be made. But I think they need to move. You know, they've been talking about filling up this commission for God knows how long now.
Are you a chance, Ed, or not? No, seriously, because your name gets bandied around, which is something you want to do.
No, I'd do anything for footy. Right?
No, but do you want to be on the commission?
No, I think probably I'd be better off at the moment actually helping just do what I do, help with ideas and things like that. If I was offered a position on the commission, yeah, of course I'd take it. Yeah. I probably would. But I don't know if it fits in with what I do.
Yep. Yep.
But what I'm saying is that I think there are people out there, not just for the chair, right? It needs to not become a single issue Senate. And that's where the commission is looking a lot like at the moment. There's big issues and we've got to get to them. One of which is the drug issues, and we'll get to that a little bit later in Footy Classified as we come off the top rope on that, because that could well decide whether there's a revolution in this game. That's coming up next. Welcome back to Footy Classified. As we said, there's a lot of good things happening in football, and Tom, you were there today for an announcement on one that is a ripper for past players and for the future of the game.
Yeah, the current crop of footballers since 2017 have funded past players who've needed assistance to the tune of $24 million. This has now been elevated, as per today's discussion, to $54 million between 2023 and 2027.
How do you qualify for hardship?
So you have to have played a game in VFL, AFL football, or since 2017, just been on a list.
And what is hardship, though? Is it you're just down on your luck, or is it your body's gone from playing
physical,
footy?
Mental, emotional, any of the above?
So you were forced out of the game. You had to go to the commission, didn't you? And what's the term for the tribunal?
Well, it's a career-ending eye injury. You go to the AFLPA and there's a commission that take care of it. But yeah, so my eyes were deemed too risky, and the detached retinas I've had far too risky to continue playing. I've lost some eyesight over the time too. So there's some future issues I'll have. And if you zoom that camera up close enough to my eyes, you'll see they look a little different as well, which probably affects Belinda more than me. Yeah. But no, it's so good.
Got the TAB eyes at the moment.
Yeah. This is good though, isn't it?
One going each way.
But it's so good. It's one of the great things the AFLPA has set up over the years is to look after their past players, not only with hardship funds like this, but in terms of medical assistance, would that be physiotherapy, hospital cover, also private health cover too. So they really do take care of their past players.
So this is what was discussed today. The AFL and the AFL Players Association have come together, and this is what it is. I've spoken to you through the eligibility. The key metric is since 2017, Rory, this program has assisted 1,200 former players, men and women, and up to $600,000 per player. So if you have a player, hypothetically, that is rendered a quadriplegic from football, they are eligible for $600,000 as part of this fund.
Is this the concussion one as well?
And this also includes concussion as well. So concussion is part of this, and it will be determined by an independent panel to determine exactly how serious those injuries are.
Well, the concussion would have to be the big driver for this, because there are so many players falling out of the game due to concussion, Hirdy. Yeah,
and I think we've called all year, particularly on this show, that more needs to be done. That's exactly what needs to be done. And congratulations to the association, to the AFL. We do have a go at everyone a lot of the time, but it's the right time, the right place, and well done. And a lot of players. It just needs to be advertised more too, so players know about it. I think a lot of players will be taken care of, and fantastic.
I just think that is absolutely well done to everyone involved in that. The AFLPA, Paul Marsh, and of course Andrew Dillon, the CEO of the AFL, to get that done. It's a ripper for the people we've got to look after. We've got to look after the players in the game. I keep saying this. I think the Commission needs to turn itself back into our game and look after our game. Not at the expense of everything else, but actually just focusing back in.
I just love the fact it's funded by the current players as well, showing that they're invested. Hey, Eddie, you spoke about Paul Marsh briefly then. He was part of the briefing today. He's leaving the AFLPA at the end of the week. In fact, Andrew Dillon today thanked Paul Marsh for all his work over the years. And as part of this, he spoke about the illicit drugs policy. And I classify this as a parting shot at you.
Show us the evidence that a more punitive approach is going to actually improve the outcomes on this issue. Like, this is an issue that we always, both of us, have always taken as a identify, support, try to change behaviours, and that's still what we're trying to do with the policy. So I don't think it's helpful getting into a discussion. I think what can get frustrating on an issue like this is there are a lot of people who are not experts in this space who have a whole lot of solutions based on nothing that we can work out that makes any sense in terms of how you're going to deal with it. Like, we're working with experts. We've got a behaviour change approach to this that hopefully we're not so far away from agreeing something that can be announced.
So there won't be punitive measures that come in. Ed, not just me, but other journalists in the room interpreted this as a real crack at you and the stance you've taken against...
And you thought Nick Riewoldt as well, so anyone who's had a go.
Yeah, and other people that have been against some of the AFL...
Well, I don't know, actions. I haven't spoken to Paul about it, but I'll find out from him. But let's say it was, OK? That's a softening up, because they're going to come in with a very soft drug code, OK? And people aren't going to like it. And, I mean, we saw it as late as over the weekend with Bailey Smith, completely laughing at the AFL, making idiots of them. Players who constantly go in and go to the doctor at the club and say, oh, I've got a headache, or I broke up with my girlfriend, and self-reporting and doing all these things. I'll tell you what I am. I'm sick of going to funerals. I'm sick of watching people, their careers go. I'm sick of clubs being exploded because of these situations. I'm sick of players putting themselves in harm's way with nefarious activities which will lead to players getting fixed up as far as match fixing is concerned. Umpires who get involved in drugs, and don't think that doesn't happen.
Well, where do you get drugs from?
Hang on. Well, where do you go? We don't go down to Chemist Warehouse, as I said on the news. Who do you reckon are selling these things? So at the moment, here's where our drug code has got to moved along. If you self-report, you get nothing. If you get caught on match day because you took it one night too late or whatever the case, or they've got better drug testing capabilities, you get put out for life. You get 4 years, you're cooked and your life's done, okay? And if you get your photo taken, you get rubbed out for a couple of weeks. Okay, now let's say I'm a really bad person, okay, and I go around in the summer and I start taking photos of people and I build up a nice little cache of photos of a particular club. You get to preliminary final week and you go up to that club or those players and you say, I've got photos of you, you're going to get 2 weeks, your season's gone, it's going to be the biggest scandal in the world, pay up or do as I say. What do you reckon happens? Okay, so I believe in what the AFL and the PA have done over the years as far as the empathy and the medical approach to it. But we're long past it. I think the community has now said, enough. We have to have some parameters, and whether that is on the streets or anywhere else, okay? And that's what we need to do now. We can't just keep going down this path. It's not working. Every other week, another player gets themselves into a complete schmozzle, and it's all drug-related.
You're not an expert, though. You're a former club.
I'll tell you, hang on, let me just finish, right? Yep. I'll tell you what I'm an expert on, right? I don't know how too many people have had two blokes sit on their couch, perspiring almost to dissolving themselves because they've been found guilty of taking a drug that was laced, and they get 2 years. And I'm sitting there with Gary Pert and Neil Baum and two young Collingwood players, and their lives on the line. And we go, yep, we'll look after you. We'll get you through the whole situation. Not what the PA say, that clubs will burn you and all this. No one at football clubs wants to burn people unless you deserve to be kicked out of the club, right? So I do take umbrage at that because I've sat there and watched it. And as I said, I've been to too many funerals. I've seen too many players. It's happening every other week. Wake up and smell the roses, for God's sake. The community does not want to cop this anymore. If there's one thing that the AFL can stand up and do in life is be against drugs. It's killing our community. It's killing football clubs in the suburbs. It's killing them in the country. It's into the women's group. As I said, it's everywhere. Now, 1 in 9 people in Victoria on the roads when they get pulled up are drug affected. So we know it's everywhere. But we're paying people enough money not to do this. So I say they need to have a really good hard look at this, and I'm putting it on the record once and for all, because I was the first person to bring this up in 1999 at a Presidents' meeting with the Commission. I sat through all what we're going to do with the drug situation, and it is off the charts. So enough of the carry on, let's just do it properly. If they won't ever go at me about that, that's fine. But I will say this, and I said on the news, 3 things in life that you live by if you want to be successful. Don't do drugs, don't do drugs, don't do drugs. And you can line up every expert from here to Timbuktu to come and argue that point with me. You reckon doing drugs is good? Come and see me.
We'll go to a break. We'll be back after this.
What about Joe Burrow as well? Because this is one of my favourite stories that you've ever told.
Yeah, I saw he was in Melbourne, so I thought I'd throw out a message. And I'm at training and I get off the track and he's replied to me. And he was like, yeah, we'll get a feed and stuff. So we went to Nobu.
Who looked after the bill?
He did. It was funny, me and Jayden get our credit cards out. We're like, oh, and he's like, boys, come on. Just drops his American Express.
Guinea and C-Mac like to steal the celebrations so they kick one first.
Yeah, well, I actually didn't see it because I was on the bench when he did it, and he did it that quick. And he's so small that you can't see him around the other people's.
Yeah, one of the worst decisions I ever made in my life. Look, I was trying to find love, okay? Just like yourself, Felix, actually going on The Bachelor. The exact same process.
Yeah, 2 years of therapy down the drain by bringing that show back up for me.
That's players. Felix von Hoff there getting the grill from Sarah Rowe, who won the A-League Soccer Championship, back to training for the AFLW, and of course a Gaelic football star also on last night, Matt Guelphy and Connor McDonald. A fantastic show, and the people are loving it on YouTube and of course on all the socials. Tommy, it's going beautifully, and right after your show on Monday night, Footy Classified. All right, let's get stuck in it now. It's time to go to the boys over there, we're going to get
Have you calmed down?
Ed needs a break.
Well, I've been getting a lot of messages through, that's for sure. They're all on me.
Take it away, Hirdy.
Coach's Corner. Come on, Hirdy and Rory, let's go.
Well, I've got a lot to live up to here after that last segment. Thank you, Ed. We've got the Pies versus the Hawks, and this really is the match of the round. I love the Collingwood system, the way they're playing at the moment, Rory. They're fantastically coached by their coach, Craig McRae. And you look at these numbers, handballs and metres gained ranked 4th, handball stoppage exit scores 4th, change to score 3rd, defensive half to score 3rd, scores from inside 50 1st, and scores from turnover 3rd. It goes to show a team knows exactly what they're doing, what the coach wants them, trained to perfection. And to me, Craig McRae is the best coach in the competition by a long way at the moment.
You know you've got a great system when your players that are coming in to fill that void, or your senior players, are having ripping games as well. And who do we have? We had Will Parker, Markov, Will Hazel come in, but Ned Long, he's been a superstar since last year.
It's next man up, isn't it? It really is next man up. We're missing Pendlebury, we're missing Sidebottom, we're missing these players, but Ned Long seems to be playing the Pendlebury role. They know exactly what they're doing, and when they get out there on the ground, the positioning, the way they run through the contest is just second to none.
Yep, and we'll have a look at some footage in a sec, but the players have got to come back in too.
Wouldn't you like to have some of these guys coming back? Pendlebury, Sidebottom, Moore, Bobby Hill and Lockie Schultz. Now that's a 5 that any club would want, and these guys will come back in Friday night. That's going to be very hard to stop for the Hawks.
Yeah, but so let's take a look at some of their footage, because they are all on the same page, and it's this type of footy that you're loving at the moment, Hirdy.
It is. I mean, it's very hard to stop. This kamikaze handball. See the lanes they're all in. They know where to play the ball, and they're ahead of the ball. It's almost impossible to stop. I want to see Ned Long here. You can see Ned Long just coming to sprint. Just here. The way they run and know where the ball's going, he at all times know where the ball's going, holding their lanes, Dacos coming in, they're holding the lanes out wide, but that kamikaze handball going through is almost impossible to stop. And that last quarter against North Melbourne was sensational football. Long getting the ball, coming out of the stoppage, and beautiful goal at the end of it.
Well, and the other thing is it's ball on chest too, and it makes the ball flow a whole lot easier. If you keep that ball on body, it allows the ball to flow.
They're up against the Hawks, who again have a very defined system. They love to move the ball quickly. The reason they need to move the ball quickly is their small forward line. You can't bomb it in. You look at the forwards who are kicking goals. Gunston and Marby are taller players, kicking 23 and 20, but the rest of the players for Hawthorn kicking goals are smaller forwards. If you move the ball slowly to that small forward line, they won't score. It has to move quickly. Yeah,
and it's something we love about Hawthorn too, is their ball movement in particular. And we'll have a look at how they played against Brisbane, because they want to take these sort of kicks. They want to take the game on. They don't want to be going long to
not long down the line,
this. No, not at all.
They don't have the players to do it.
And they're good enough to win this contest here. But if we pause in a second here,
it has to come there, doesn't it?
Has to come here. And at the start of the year, Hawthorn were hitting this kick. Collingwood will do exactly like Brisbane. They'll cover that off with their half forwards coming up the ground. And all they want to do is force that ball to the boundary, because they know they'll be set up long down the line.
Well, they just don't have the tall forwards down the line. Harris Andrews read that very easily, didn't he?
He did, absolutely. And then this is the other style that Hawthorn will play. They will flick it around with hands, and that will invite Collingwood's unbelievable pressure.
But see, now the ball has to come to the other side of the ground. He kicks a bit, now comes back. It has to come to the other side so they can kick their way through and open up the space for those forwards.
And this is okay. But they need to take the easy option. They need to keep this ball moving, and Collingwood will set up a zone. They'll tease this kick, and if you don't nail that kick, which Hawthorn didn't do on the weekend, Collingwood are going to chop it off.
Yeah, the other thing the Hawks have been really good at is getting frees and goals from high tackles. I mean, I think they're 14th in the league and number one, 14 goals and tackles. This is fantastic play here by the Gold Coast Suns. They just didn't tackle. They know Watson's going to his knees, and I think sides are on to Hawthorn, not only the players but the umpires. The tackling methodology of Brisbane and Gold Coast the week before is such improved that Hawthorn really, I reckon they have to get this out of the game because they're being found out.
Well, it's a taught thing, isn't it? Coaches would have spoken about this and say, like, I want you to stand up. You've got to be careful that arm coming underneath. But as you mentioned before, I love that umpires aren't falling for this anymore. They're allowing players to, if they do want to duck their head and you do slightly get them on the shoulder, they're going to allow that to play on and reward the tackler, because we don't want to see head knocks or people's heads ripped.
No, and there's two types of tackles that I've noticed a real difference is. One is the tackle from behind, where you lay your head on the back and you really drop down and bring them back. And the other one is against the Hawks players. It's almost like a bear hug. You start to tackle your hug, and as soon as they drop their knees, you take your hands away and they look a bit silly. I've seen that come in over the last couple of weeks.
Well, you can almost get a free kick without even tackling, as we saw in a couple of clips there. So, a couple of unbelievable sides. Collingwood in a bit better form, but who wins this game?
For me, it's Collingwood. I think with those players that are coming back, it's Collingwood. What about you?
Yeah, Collingwood win. I think a bit too consistent at the moment, but wouldn't be surprised if Hawthorn pull one out of the bag, and Sammy's such a good coach.
Well, I think Eddie's had a glass of water and settled down, so back to you, Ed.
Oh, it made me feel a lot happier now after that. Normally you guys are really good. Tonight you're magnificent. Tipping the Pies.